It's Kai. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different because I was in the market for a new beauty sponge, and despite being in the beauty community for forever, I've been watching beauty videos way before this product even existed. I've been buying makeup products, collecting makeup products for a while now, but I have actually never tried the original Beauty Blender. As famous as this product is, I feel like it is one of the beauty products that defines an entire generation of beauty lovers. It is what really put sponges on the map, I feel like, for a lot of people outside of the little sponges that would come in compacts and different makeup products. But it really put makeup sponges on the map as far as them being a makeup tool. And when they sprouted up, a whole bunch of competitors pretty much sprouted up at the same time, especially lower cost competitors. And just at the time in my life I was in, I personally could not spend $20 on a makeup sponge. And even at the time in my life I'm currently at, I'm just like, do I ever want to spend $20 on a makeup sponge? For that reason, I have never tried the original Beauty Blender. I've tried the e.l.f. sponges, I've tried Real Techniques, Sonia Kashuk, so many of the brands that are often compared or given as a lower cost alternative to the Beauty Blender, but I've never tried the Beauty Blender itself. However, I was perusing in TJ Maxx, and even over the holidays I noticed that they had some Beauty Blender either holiday sets or even just regular beauty blenders for sale, and that they were half price. This one, for instance, is $10, even though the compare at says $13 and the actual value on the front says $20. I've seen a lot of them pop up at the discount stores, and for me, I'm just kind of like, $10 is something I can do. I've been previously using the e.l.f. sponge. This has been the sponge that I've been using quite literally for years. It's, similar in the color to the Beauty Blender sponge or the original sponge. I know they come out with all of the different colors now. However, I'm not as interested in purchasing from e.l.f. at this point. I'm not a big fan of the whole Matt Rife thing, as someone who has been personally affected by domestic violence and doesn't think it's like a punchline in a joke. And in general, I just feel as though e.l.f. is going down that very gimmicky road. So I personally, while I have a lot of e.l.f. products, I'm going to continue to use them. Again, I was in the market for a new sponge, and I figured I could get for almost the same price. I used to be able to get a 2-pack of these for $10. And of course, one of these beauty blenders, even at a discounted price, is about $10. But honestly, I've even seen some priced as low as like $7.99. And again, I feel like other competitors like the Real Techniques sponges I've seen at, regular retailers, they're at about the $10 mark. And then when I've seen them at TJ Maxx and stuff, you can find a 2-pack for $10. And again, it's a discounter. But this one in particular, I saw this set where it has a little travel case, which honestly, that's something that I didn't mind having as a little extra with buying this, because I have always had a little bit of an issue when I've been traveling with where to store my beauty sponge. I usually just throw it in my makeup bag along with all of the other products, or in the same bag as my, my brushes. But sometimes I want it to have something where it can air out. So this has at the top little holes where it can air out while still being tucked away if you're, in a hotel bathroom or somewhere that's not home. It also came with a little size of their Beauty Blender Solid Lavender Cleanser, which, it's always good to have a little brush cleanser, in my opinion. Definitely don't mind having that. Oh, and actually this at the top, this is the holes for venting it, and this at the top is a little scrubber attachment to, I guess, help clean it. So this will be good for brushes as well. So while I got all of this for $10 at TJ Maxx, it says that it retails for $20. So I assume that around the holidays when they have those types of sets, it would be around $20, which is the price of a singular sponge. Now, when I was looking at the sponge, and granted I've been using this for almost a year, like I said, it was definitely due, maybe closer to like 8-ish months, not a whole year, but because I was doing makeup less last year, I kept putting off getting a new sponge. But you can see kind of the size comparison. When I first saw how big this was, I was a little bit like, it's definitely one of the smaller sponges that I have used. Again, a more fair comparison would be if I had a brand new e.l.f. sponge, but I'm not gonna buy a new e.l.f. sponge just to do this video or just to compare. So while this one does feel a little bit more bouncy, usually they are a little bit firmer when you first get them. This definitely feels firmer than some of the ones that I've used, but there's still a nice squishy texture about it. Anyway, let's get into actually using it. I'm going to first use it maybe on like half of my face, or maybe not half of my face, but I'll do my concealer with it being partially damp, like not completely wet, just to see how it works in that way. I'm using the Flower Beauty, RIP to a real one, the Flower Beauty concealer. I do want to test it multiple different ways because my usual way of doing my makeup is just taking a little bit of setting spray and spraying a part of the sponge, letting it soak into the sponge a little bit, and then going in. I usually don't dampen the sponge completely, so I'll do it my regular way for my concealer just to give my concealer the best chance in general of lasting and looking good, because I know concealer is one of those things where if I don't do it in a particular way, it's honestly gonna look crepey and dry and cakey and just all of the things. Sometimes I notice with a sponge when I spray setting spray on it that it starts to get bigger and like distend on one side. I don't feel like this is doing that much. Like it hasn't grown in size a lot, and the texture doesn't feel that much different than the dry sponge. So again, I'll try it with actually dampening it all the way as well. But let's start blending. I actually do like the shape and size for my face because I do feel like I have a little bit of a petite face and petite features. And sometimes when the sponge expands or a sponge is even too big, like the Sony Akashic ones, I liked the consistency of them, but they were just way too big for me to use on my face because they were basically the size of my cheekbone when they got wet. So I do like the size and the shape, even though it doesn't have, which I never found because this side would be a little bit big on sponges that are like these, whether it's this e.l.f. one, the Morphe one, they had one that was kind of shaped like this. I never really found myself using this side underneath my eyes. I much prefer the pointed side underneath my eyes. And I have to say, having the smaller one, maybe there are points to be made for people like me with more petite features as far as trying to blend out underneath our eyes or around our nose, or just areas where bigger sponges sometimes don't do the best job. Let's put on my glasses though to see if what I'm actually doing or saying or thinking that I'm doing is matching up. Yeah, that blended actually really well. Do I feel like it looks, any different necessarily than any other sponge that I've used? No, but again, I do like the size for underneath my eyes. Okie dokie, now I'm gonna go run this underwater and do my foundation with it. Okie dokie, now it's completely wet. I submerged it underwater, squeezed it out a few times and squeezed out the extra water. Definitely gets a little bigger, or quite a bit bigger in size than a dry one of this, but I do think that this ends up expanding to be a little bit bigger than this one when it is wet. Of course, it gives you more surface area, but I wonder how it's going to be to blend. Admittedly, I usually use a brush to blend out my foundation products at this point in my life and then go over the rest of it with a sponge just to smooth everything out. Using a sponge usually gives a little bit less coverage, and especially when I'm mixing two products together like I am with my foundation currently to, finish some of the ones that I have. It's not always my favorite to blend out with a sponge, but we're gonna see. This one I do feel like it's still spongy, if that makes sense, but there's still a nice firmness about it. Not like I'm going to be hitting myself and it's gonna sound like a rock, slapping against my skin necessarily. Not like this is going to soak up all of the product that I'm using. And to be completely honest, the technique that I use with my foundation really depends on the type of look I'm going for. If I want something that's more full coverage, then honestly, a brush is going to help help you retain that coverage. But sometimes when I'm wearing a super full coverage product, I do like to apply it with a damp sponge to help meld it into my skin a little bit better and prevent it from looking like a mask, if that makes sense. But with my more medium coverage and lightweight, again, I usually use a brush and then go over with a sponge. Again, I don't feel like this blended out too badly with this. I feel like, you know, this is how much product it picked up. I don't feel like it picked up too much product. Let's do the glasses check just to see. Yeah, I feel like that blended into my skin pretty well. Well, except for right here. So that could just be my fault for not having my glasses on, you know? I actually really like the way this is looking on my skin. You know, I don't want to say that it necessarily looks better than my foundation normally looks, but especially around my nose, I just feel like it looks a little bit smoother. Let me powder my face very quickly. Okie dokie. All in all, do I feel like it blended out my makeup that much differently than other sponges? No. Do I have to say that so far I do like the experience of the Beauty Blender more than any of the other sponges I've used? Yes. It might be one of those where the original is something where it might be worth it, but just because of the price point, I just don't think, especially not at this point, like when it was new and seemingly different than everything, yeah, people wanted to try it out of novelty, but I feel as though I just don't think that $20, of course, there's always going to be those people who $20 a drop in the bucket for them and they're going to go replace their Beauty Blender religiously, pop into Sephora and purchase it. But I do still think for myself, I don't know if I would pay $20 for it. I think I would still try to hunt it down in discount stores. I do want to see how it works with cream and liquid products though. So today I'm using the Persona Cosmetics Sahara Bronze Stick. First, I'm going to try just putting it on the sponge directly and seeing how that blends. You know, not bad. This isn't necessarily how I usually put on cream bronzer. Again, I'm a little bit more of a brush type of person for cream and liquid bronzer. And then on this side, let's try again. I don't always draw it on like that. We're gonna try drawing it on and then blending it out. I don't always draw it on like that to blend it out because I feel like it looks more harsh and it's a little bit more difficult to blend out. If you want a more chiseled look, then that might be easier. For me, like I much prefer this softer side than this more chiseled side, I guess. While I like the effect of drawing it on the sponge itself better, I feel like it's soaking up a lot of product that way, which is again part of the reason that I usually use a brush first, and then if I feel like I need to go back and diffuse it, I'll diffuse it with a sponge all around my face. Okie dokie. And now we're going to do some cream blush as well. Well, since we did cream bronzer, let's actually do a liquid blush instead. I was going to use Inferno, my beloved Inferno from Phytosurgeons. I love this, but let's find maybe a similar shade in a liquid formula because I know I have one that's similar enough. This might be a little bit more warm and like almost orangey. This is the Rare Beauty Love. What do you call it? I'm gonna put it on my little makeup palette, but I've had these blushes. I've had a lot of makeup products basically since the brand's launched. These are huge, and this is how little you really, honestly, that might be even too much for today. The saving grace might be that I'm using a sponge instead of a brush. Cream and liquid blush is one of those areas that it's a toss-up for me. I usually use whatever I'm feeling in the day to blend it out. With something that's really pigmented, like the Rare Beauty blushes, I often will put them on a palette and then blend it out with a sponge. Sometimes I'll put it on a palette and blend it out with a sponge and then go over it, or blend it out with a brush and then go over it with a sponge. And with certain cream formulas, I can just go straight in with them with a brush. I feel like this definitely shears it out the way that a sponge often would. But again, I do really like the shape of it, even it being a little bit bigger from being completely damp. I do feel like the shape is nice. Even though I did put a little bit on my nose, I'm just gonna see, you know, if you did put a dot of it on your face, how does it blend it out? And for the glasses test, I feel like it looks pretty good. Let me turn off this because sometimes this light in the front can blow out my makeup even more than using lights already does. But I definitely feel like my makeup looks just fine today. It looks great, actually. I feel like everything's looking nice and seamless. Again, I like this side with my bronzer a little bit more with the diffused than this one. It's just looking a little, and maybe it was just the angle that I drew it on. That could be my fault. And sometimes I feel like drawing on bronzer, no matter what bronzer stick I use, drawing it on and then blending it out can often make it look just a little bit patchy in my opinion. I feel like this side's not looking the same patchiness, and maybe it's just me. I don't know. You guys have to let me know because sometimes I feel like I just am trying to nitpick myself basically. But overall, outside of differences in technique and the things that could be attributed to that, I do like the way that my makeup is looking right now. So let me do, what do I want to do? Highlight, and then I want to see how this blends out my faux freckles. Where's my highlight? Highlight. Hi, Miss Kalia. I'm sorry, Mommy's got to clean off her desk. She's going to clean it off so that you can come join her for makeup time. I know you miss joining Mommy for makeup time. I'm like the world's slowest unpacker, and I think it's just because in this economy, it's like, ooh, am I going to have to pack all of this up in 12 months and move again anyway because I get my rent jacked up? You know what I'm saying? Okie dokie, let's do our faux freckles. Is it probably going to blend out the faux freckles very similarly to how other products blend out faux freckles? Yes. Glasses test says that honestly, I like the way, I feel like they blend it out really, really nice and that they look even more natural than they sometimes do. Like, I don't want to necessarily attribute it to the sponge in particular, but I am using the same products, just this is the Pseudo Lab Shade 3 freckles, and then I apply it because I don't really like the whole like raking it on your face. I feel like it splatters all over my clothes and the OCD in me just doesn't like that. So I keep my old Freck XL little wand so that I can use the brush because I like the brush on this. I also like Freck XL on its own, but I just want to finish the freckle products that I currently have instead of repurchasing something that I don't necessarily need to repurchase right now. All that is to say, I do feel as though it diffused them very nicely. I feel like they look really natural, even though they're a little bit bigger blotches because I did my freckles without putting my glasses back on today. Yeah, but I feel like, again, it really softened them in a nice natural way. They look more like they're peeking through my makeup than putting makeup on top of them. And sometimes even with the faux freckle products that I enjoy, I don't always get that seamless look, even if I'm like blotting them out with my finger. I also don't feel like it made any of the makeup on my nose or across, you know, the middle of my face patchier. It didn't like lift any of it. I mean, I did not intend to come into this video feeling like I was going to dick ride Beauty Blender a little bit, but part of me is thinking like maybe Beauty Blender has been wronged by everyone making a copy of their sponge or their version of their sponge, not necessarily a copy. And I, again, know beauty sponges have been around for eons. Beauty Blender wasn't the first person or the first company to do it, but they really commercialized it. You know, they made it, put it on the map, made it seem bigger. However, I have to say I do really like the consistency of their sponge. Before, my e.l.f. one was my favorite, and I've heard other people say that the Sony Akashic ones before they kind of rebranded them, that those were really good. And I personally, again, liked the Sony Akashic ones, but now having tried an actual Beauty Blender, I'm not sure that any of the other sponges I've used actually work and perform the way that a Beauty Blender does. Do I think I'll spend $20 on it? Let me do the rest of my makeup and we'll summarize my thoughts on Beauty Blender, because this is actually, it's boggling my mind a little bit right now, admittedly. Donde está mi mascara? Okie dokie, makeup is done. Final thoughts on the original Beauty Blender. If I'm being completely honest, as I was saying before I was finishing up my makeup, I did not intend going into this video thinking that I was going to say that the Beauty Blender was a good product, or not that it's a bad product, you know, but I didn't go into this thinking that I was going to want to recommend a $20 usually makeup sponge. I did not think I was going to make a video essentially glazing the original $20 Beauty Blender, because in my mind, for the past however many years, like Beauty Blender has been around for 10 years or more now. I don't remember the exact year these came out, but I know that these have been a big thing for a while, and a lot of people have kind of thought, is Beauty Blender falling off? I don't necessarily feel like they should fall off for their sponge, and with so many competitors, is anyone paying $20 for a beauty sponge? And I have to say, no. Am I still a person that if I can find this for a discount, I'm going to buy it on a discount? Absolutely. If I can find them in TJ Maxx, I could even see myself stockpiling them when I see them in TJ Maxx so that I just have some backups and don't run out of them. But that's the thing. This is a good enough sponge, and I love the way that my makeup came out and how easy it was to use. Even using this in ways that I don't always use my makeup in, or because I was testing this out using techniques that I normally don't use for my preferred look with my makeup, and I still feel as though my makeup came out really beautifully today. I really liked how easy it was to blend out my makeup and everything looking seamless. As I said earlier, I like the size of this underneath my eye, especially when it's not completely dampened. I liked using this when it was only dampened with my setting spray and when it was dampened with water completely. I liked using it with a few different formulas of products, you know, a cream product, some liquid products, and everything. So I feel like I tested this in a few different ways. And of course, the first time you use something, maybe it's the novelty, maybe it is just, you know, I've never used this before and I feel like it's different, but I truly do enjoy the experience of using a beauty blender. And like I said, I would definitely, if I saw them, stockpile them. And I would go as far as to say that, well, I'm not sure, especially at the point in my life that I'm at currently, I would pay $20 like full retail for a beauty blender. I could see myself purchasing this during, say, the Sephora VIB sale where I have 15 or 20% off depending on what tier I am, like getting it still at a discount, but not necessarily the 50% discount that I would finding it at TJ Maxx or Marshalls. That's still, again, my first line of defense for finding it, but I could also see myself purchasing it in those instances. And I think they're available at Ulta. Is it only Sephora? I don't know. I feel like sometimes Ulta and Sephora battle it out for which products from a brand they actually have. But for whatever reason, I've just never seen a beauty blender display at Ulta. So I don't know why in my brain it's seeming like beauty blender is a Sephora thing. But if it's at Ulta as well, I could see using one of my coupons if it's like a prestige coupon. I think they sent out some recently. But again, I could see myself purchasing it at a full price retailer, again for a discount, but just in other instances. Now that I'm not purchasing from e.l.f. anymore, can I say again, if I can only find this full price, and if I were in a different spot in my life where I felt like $20 is a drop in the bucket for me, maybe I would purchase it now that I've tried it. I feel like for so long, even when I was in a different spot financially and was like buying a whole bunch of different makeup products, this just never stuck out to me because I felt like there's just so many other products on the market that are going to do the exact same thing. But had I tried that years ago, I might have been sucked into a beauty blender truther even sooner. But anyway, I know this was, again, a little bit of a different different video. I don't know how useful someone's thoughts or review, first impressions, whatever you call it, I don't necessarily know how useful they are years after a product has launched and pretty much everyone has tried it. But if you're a person like me who has hesitated trying the Beauty Blender because you felt as though the price, you just couldn't justify it, if you can find it on a little sale, I would say try it out and see if it is any different than other sponges. For some people, they're going to be like, hey, this is basically the same thing as any other sponge. I'm going to keep getting my 200 pack that are like $10 at, you know, those big jugs of them that they do at TJ Maxx. And some people might be like me and change their mind and kind of just be like, hey, the Beauty Blender is actually kind of a good product. And maybe all of the other brands who offer alternatives for this product are offering just that, an alternative, not something that is completely comparable in the experience to this, even if it comes at a lower price tag. Let me know what you think if you've tried the Beauty Blender versus other sponges. Again, I did not expect this video to be I kind of really like the experience of a Beauty Blender and would repurchase it or try to find instances where I can repurchase it for a good price. But that's where my thoughts are ending up right now. We will see if I feel the same in a favorites video down the road, or even when I need to switch this out in 3 to 6 months or so. Anyway, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if there's anything else you want me to film, let me know. I'll definitely be down to film it. I hope you're staying safe and healthy wherever you are when you're watching this, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.